Good morning and welcome to Indianapolis and welcome to the campus of IUPUI. For those of you that are visitors to Indianapolis, IUPUI is a campus of Indiana University, and we also award Purdue degrees on this campus. So we're a real blended campus of Indiana University and Purdue University, and our largest partner is actually the city of Indianapolis. So we're delighted to be here and to be part of this important conference today. We're happy to host the United States Myanmar Engagement Conference, and I thought it was important for you to know that IUPUI was recently recognized for our distinction in community engagement through two particular awards. One is the President's Higher Education Commission Community Service Honor Roll with Distinction, which was recently presented to us, and the Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching, Community Engagement Reclassification. So the work that we do at IUPUI is deeply tied to extending our commitment to the city of Indianapolis, to the state of Indiana, to the nation, and beyond. So it's very much a part of the culture of how we do business. That's why today's conference is so incredibly important to us. We also would like to welcome the guests who have come from our campus in Bloomington. So we have some colleagues from Bloomington. Welcome back. And we look forward to seeing you throughout the conference. And to our expert speakers. When we got to take a look at this important program and see the speakers who are bringing distinction to this conference, I think we will all leave with a much better understanding of what the opportunities are in engagement, in economic development, and internationalization. I'd also like to welcome today our next speaker, Eliza Vani. Eliza is the executive director of the Burmese American Community Institute. And I think when you learn about the Institute, you'll understand why he was so instrumental in pulling this conference together. His experience in bringing community members together, political partners together, made today move from a dream to a reality. But I also would like to share with you, he's a fellow alumnus and a fellow graduate of Indiana University, where he earned his MPA from Indiana University Bloomington in Comparative International Affairs with Policy Analysis. So I'm delighted today to welcome Eliza Vani.
Thank you so much, Amy, for your kind introduction. Wow, this is a great group of people, really diverse, and also well represented throughout the United States, especially Chin and Burmese communities, and also from different parts of the world. I think we are here, some people from Texas and Michigan, Pennsylvania, and also Ohio, Kentucky, and Maryland, Washington, D.C., and even from Australia and Europe, and for Burma as well, and I think from even Chin State. So this is really, really, I think, exciting. And also, I think there are really important partners here in this room, in Central Indiana as well as in the United States. Senator Brad Waltz, and also Congressman Anacos's office, and Senator Coates' office, and some partners from Purdue University as well, faculty members, and of course, International Center, and some businesses and community leaders. Thank you so much. His Excellency Ambassador U Cho-tin, other speakers, guests of honors, ladies and gentlemen, it is truly an honor to have this opportunity to give a brief welcoming note this morning. And I am very pleased that you have able to come to join today this very important special event, the U.S.-Myanmar Engagement Conference in Indianapolis. There are more than 200,000 individuals of Burmese origin currently living in the United States. We are thankful to the American people for welcoming us, that we have started our new lives here. Recently, though, it has been an interesting time in Burma as our country has gone through ostensible reform process. The country has indicated desire to open up more to international community after decades of isolation. Expatriates as well as international community see alike a window of opportunity to constructively engage, to effect change into the democratic society and a country. Also, at the same time, we see the opportunity to pool the resource together and redirect to contribute to the process of reform in Burma. And the US, especially, Indianapolis is uniquely but strongly positioned to contribute to that process. In line with that philosophy and understanding, this conference brings together government officials, academics, businesses, civil society, community leaders, and other stakeholders from both the US and Myanmar to promote substantive dialogue and examine critical issues and opportunity for the future of Burma. By doing so, first of all, we hope that all participants this morning will have a greater understanding and interest in the US policy towards Burma and the important services that the US have been providing to the Burmese people inside as well as here in the United States. Secondly, we must move forward with faith and hope. Briefly revisited our history, Burma political crisis is deeply rooted in ethnic conflict with the longest civil war in history, and the country has ravaged by systematic rights deprivations and poverty for more than half a century. But with change, steps that has been taken by President U Tin Sin, in recent years, we see the opportunity to engage, effect further change. And we must move forward to a solution of a national reconciliations and sustained peace. To be able to do so, as global citizens, it's important for us to stay engaged and affect positively to the ongoing ceasefire negotiations, political dialogue, and also, more importantly, constitutional reform, and in 2000 election, as it is critically important for the future of Burma in many years to come. Thirdly, recognizing the importance of investing in people and education, for educated society and economic growth is essential to sustain democratic society, continue progress in the country. We hope that this conference will contribute to the articulation and implementation of the notion of resource mobilization, recycling back, as well as responsible investment, which often requires in-depth, substantive, but open discussions. By the end of today, our hope is that every participant in this conference will walk away with a greater appreciation of diversity and the complex nature of Burma's issue, and with a deeper understanding, perhaps with a willingness and aspirations of democratic ideals and values of how we can collaboratively and collectively take actions to further effect change. Unmistakably, we believe that this conference, combined with such a network of productive global citizens, will obviously serve as one of the many efforts to foster our local capacity, institutional capacity, and ultimately promote liberty, sustain peace, prosperity in Burma in the long run. May I offer my sincere appreciations to all the speakers today, for they will be sharing with us their expansive knowledge. And our special thanks to Ambassador, His Excellency U Cho Tin, who is our keynote speaker today, for warmly accepting our invitation to come down to Indianapolis. We truly appreciate. And may I offer my heartfelt thanks to Aung San Suu Kyi for sending a special keynote for this conference despite her extremely schedule. My highest esteem for her unwavering commitment to democracy in Burma and her leadership for the people of Burma. Let me conclude my welcoming message by thanking all our conference partners, the Office of International Development, Murray School of Law, Constitutional Democracy, and especially Galley School of Business, International Institute for Business at IU Bloomington. Not only for them making this conference possible, but also the important work and service and contribution to Burma and the people of Burma. We sincerely hope that the first U.S. engagement conference will promote spirit of constructive engagement and democracy and have fostered a long-lasting friendship and participants among the conference today. Now, with that, I would like to introduce Chris Milligan, Chief of Mission of United States International Development Agency in Burma.
Mingalaba, thank you so much for the opportunity to pass along my greetings and wishes for a successful conference. This conference is an opportunity to hear from a variety of voices on where the country is now, the progress it has made, and the real challenges that remain. As you all know, this is a country of rich history and diversity. It is also a country in which governance, territory, and even identity are contested. It is a complex and politically sensitive operating environment. Countrywide, mistrust and grievances from decades of conflict still act as impediments to peace. And communal violence continues to displace hundreds of thousands. Yet the country is closer than ever before to ending decades of civil war. And this year, power has been put on the table. All eyes will be on the first democratic elections in decades. The election will be an important marker in reaffirming the commitment to political reform. The United States welcomes the government's pledge to hold credible, inclusive, and transparent parliamentary elections. We're working together with government, civil society, political parties, and media to promote a peaceful, inclusive election environment. While the elections will be important to reforms, it is also important that democracy delivers, that the reforms reach everyday people. USAID assistance builds democratic institutions and strengthens human rights. It improves the health and well-being of tens of thousands of communities. It furthers the ongoing peace process and supports the development of a stable, inclusive society. It is particularly inspiring to me to see how the diaspora are playing a central role, bringing their unique blend of local expertise and international experience to the country's reforms. Civil society has responded as well, courageously increasing their organization, advocacy, and effectiveness in promoting continued reforms despite the difficult environment and continued challenges they face. As a development agency, it is important to remember that the international community should not prioritize its agenda over local initiatives, or worse, prioritize development goals over the resolution of political grievances. The fact is, the reform process will succeed only if the people of this country actively participate in key decisions affecting their future. While we have seen progress over the past few years, as President Obama noted during his last visit, a long road lies ahead. The U.S. government remains committed to supporting the people of this country in the ongoing transition. To that end, I look forward to learning about the insights and conclusions reached in today's important conference. Jesu Timbade Kumia.
Chris has been from the beginning very supportive to this initiative in the process. He is not able to join in person, but he has decided and graciously sent a video audio, so we appreciate his message. Without further delay, I would like to introduce Christine Davies, Director of the Programs of Galley School of Business, International Institute for Business.
On behalf of the Kelley School of Business Institute for International Business, I want to extend my deepest welcome. We are very excited at the Kelley School. We've been working in Myanmar for about a year and a half now, and it's been a phenomenal experience. It's a wonderful country, and it's fantastic today to be able to share that experience through our USAID project, through our Center for International Business Education and Research, or CIBER project, with all of you. So it's fantastic to bring both of our projects together here today. And without further ado, I am pleased to introduce Patrick O'Meara. He is Vice President of International Affairs Emeritus for Indiana University, Bloomington.
I'm delighted to be here and to welcome all of you to this very important meeting. I want to reflect on some personal things to begin with. I've been privileged to be involved with Burma for many years at this end in the United States. I began to meet Burmese refugees and scholars when I first became dean and later when I was vice president at Indiana University. And I continue to be interested as special advisor to Michael McRobbie in the Burmese world. So I've met generations of Burmese refugees, and I've met so many people who are interested and care for Burma. I'm reminded of one reunion many years ago with Burmese refugees. The military in Burma, the military regime in then Myanmar, seemed to be permanently entrenched. I was not sure that change would ever occur. After the transition in South Africa, and I've remained very deeply interested in South Africa, and the release of Nelson Mandela, I recall remarking at this meeting that I hoped that such changes would come to Burma. Of course, I should have realized that nothing in politics is ever chronic or final. I should have predicted change. I wasn't sure. Today, Aung San Suu Kyi is released, and imperfect as the changes may be, they are taking place. And we're all watching with great anticipation the election that will be held later this year. And we're also concerned about some of the ethnic violence. And as President Obama has said, we should not deny that Burma today is not the same as Burma 5 years ago, but the process is still incomplete. And in that incomplete process, let me think back again to how we have helped and how we might help in the future. Sitting at the table is Ken Rogers, who was the founding father of Burma at Indiana University. What did he do? He began his career as a US official in Rangoon during the 1960s. And from then onwards, he became a strong advocate of the Burmese refugee program. What about this program? What did it do? And what is the message for us today? The program brought young men and women who had to leave their homeland after the military coup to the United States for academic programs. They fled their homeland, sometimes under incredibly harsh conditions. They fled to Thailand, or they fled to India in some cases. And the program helped generations of these students to come to the US, to go to colleges and universities. I can think of one of my students, and I want to use him to tell you about the success of that program. This student came as a refugee. He needed special admission to Indiana University. He completed a BA degree with distinction in East Asian Studies. Then he moved on to do an MPA degree, and then a PhD and JD degree. Can you imagine leaving Burma as a refugee, moving to the camps, and going through that academic program and publishing major books? And today, he is a professor at Carleton College. And the chair of his PhD committee was co-chair with me, was Nobel Prize winner Elinor Ostrom. Isn't it amazing what happens in life to people? I must say, it's important to be aware also of the new generation. This last spring, we had an amazing group, and Genevieve Pritchard, who's here, worked tirelessly with this group of 20 young Burmese. I'm talking about people, and I want us to grasp this notion of how we can change lives and how we need to continue that. These young Burmese students had never been out of the country before, many of them, and they came to Indianapolis and to Washington, D.C. They were part of a State Department leadership program. The important part was that they were to improve their leadership skills and to learn about America. You know, it was amazing to see these young people. They moved in with host families. They looked American. I hate to say that. They were wearing jeans and T-shirts. They had an intense schedule of activities. I was impressed this year with 2 or 3 things, with the sophistication of these students. We'd had a previous group before. This was a very urbane, sophisticated group with great linguistic skills. And this generation of young people is a sign of hope for the future. Sophisticated, eager, willing to explore, and going back fired with enthusiasm. It was an amazing experience for us. IU continues to be involved with Burma. I've mentioned this program, I've mentioned the refugees. The Kelly School. Isn't this an exciting project? A project that is looking at market-led economies and working with the Yangon Institute of Economics to help micro to medium-sized business enterprises to be successful. You see the line of thinking from refugees to the current Burma, to this whole idea of change. And I'm sorry that David Williams will not be with us today. What an extraordinary activity the Williamses, David and Susan, have been involved in, with constitutions. In Burma, of course, but in other parts of the world as well. They've really been explored with constitutionalism, with democracy, with the rule of law, and with opposition groups. It's an honor for IU to continue in that tradition. In closing, I want to congratulate the organizers of this conference. It takes a lot to pull something like this together. And to express the hope that the outcome will be significant. It should be significant for the nearly 200,000 Burmese who live in this country to know more about this, for those living in Indiana and Indianapolis area. And I hope, as a result of the conference, and it's a wonderful title, this notion of engagement, that these past engagements, these present Burmese diaspora people will look for new forms of engagement. This is timely and very significant. Thank you. I have another task. I'm not done, right? Sushi? Yes, I'm ready. I'm very honored to be asked to do a short introduction of our speaker. Everyone in this room knows a great deal about this exceptional woman. In introducing her, I do not want to simply provide her resume. I want to look at her spirit and her significance. Influenced by both Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolence and by Buddhist concepts, Aung San Suu Kyi entered politics to work for democratization. Of course, she helped to found the National League for Democracy in 1988. But think of it, what a sacrifice in the end, and what serenity as well, all those years under house arrest. The refusal of freedom to leave if she left the country, and the popularity, like Mandela's, of the aura of this woman. During her time under house arrest, she devoted herself to Buddhist meditation practices and to studying Buddhist thought. This deep interest in Buddhism and in nonviolence is reflected in her writings. This notion of compassion and of the compatibility of democracy, Buddhism, and nonviolence in the face of an authoritarian government. She advocates nonviolence as an expedient political tactic, not just as a philosophical premise. I do not hold to nonviolence for moral reasons, she writes, but for political and practical reasons, which is a very interesting comment. She talks about the corruption of power and the danger of the corruption of power. And she writes as well, government leaders are amazing, she says. So often it seems that they are the last people to know what the people really want. So, a wonderful woman, the recipient of the Sakharov Prize, of the Nobel Peace Prize, and now she faces another crossroad. In November, she will either be in a position to become the president, or, in spite of her popularity, she might be bypassed by the military, who still hold political cards. Even if there's a major victory in Parliament, she might not be president. She could still, of course, be a powerful player. So, it's my honor and my privilege to introduce a woman who should be an inspiration to all of us, a woman that reminds me of someone else I dealt with in my life, Nelson Mandela, and other important leaders, a woman who is active, engaged, and philosophically deeply committed. Please welcome.
I would like to begin by thanking the Burmese American Community Institute of Indiana University for inviting me to deliver this keynote address. It's always a pleasure for me to address fellow Burmese overseas, because although they are no longer living in our country, I feel very much they're still a part of us, and that they would like to do everything they can, not just to maintain their ties with our country, but to help us to develop in the best possible way. I understand that the main topics of this conference will be constitutional reform and economic development. Both development in its own way, political development, economic development. We have always put a lot of emphasis on political development because that has been lacking sadly in our country for the last few decades, and because of the lack of political development. We have not been able to develop economically either. I think a lot of you would be more interested in business than in politics, but as a politician, I can say very frankly that my greater interest is in politics, because I think that good, sound, honest politics lies at the foundation of a good, sound economy. If we do not have rule of law, if we do not have a government that is transparent and accountable and that manages to gain the confidence of the people, we shall never be able to develop in the way that will benefit our people. Development is not simply growth. I think I don't need to explain this anymore. Everybody now accepts that development has to be more than just growth. Development has to mean a better life for the great majority of our people, not for just a small privileged elite. I fear that this is where we seem to be heading at the moment. All the economic reforms that some people have tried to focus on have done more to help the already privileged than to help those who are suffering from poverty, who are suffering from the ill effects of an authoritarian regime that was in place in our country for half a century. If we have to start with reform anywhere, it should be with constitutional reform. The 2008 Constitution, under which the elections in 2010 were held, and under which the elections this year are going to be held too, was not drawn up with a practicing democracy in mind. It was drawn up with the intention of preserving the status quo as far as possible while making the minimum concession to democratic demands. Because of that, our people under this constitution are not in a position to exercise full authority over the government. And if it is not government for the people, by the people, of the people, how can we say that this is democratic? So constitutional reform comes first. And particularly, we should have some constitutional reform pushed through before the elections later this year. I don't know how many of you are aware that the constitution of this country cannot be amended if the military representatives within the legislature are against it. In short, that the military representatives, unelected, who make up 25% of all the legislatures in our country, meaning to say not just the national legislatures, but also the regional and state legislatures, they have the right of veto over amendments to essential parts of the Constitution. If the elections later this year are to be free and fair, the Constitution has to be amended in a way that will give the people the full right to choose the kind of government they wish to see in their country. Economic reforms can be fair only if the elections this year are free and fair. Free and fair are two very short and simple words, but they cover adequately all that we need for our elections. Not just free elections, but fair elections, which means a level playing ground, which means a constitution that will allow our people to choose the kind of representatives they want, freely, without intervention from any privileged group. So I would like all of you to focus on this crucial issue for the year, the elections of 2015, the changes that might be necessary in order to ensure that these elections are free and fair and held under circumstances that will promote stability and peace in our country. Not only should elections be free and fair, the results of the elections must be respected, and there must be a reassurance for everybody concerned, for all concerned, that after the elections, there will be stability, there will be peace, there will be not just respect for the will of the people, but a genuine will to implement that will as expressed through the elections. If these conditions are met, the way will be open for the kind of economic development that will benefit not just my country, but all of you who are interested in investing in Burma. Investments can be safe only if there is stability and peace within a country. We have not yet achieved peace in a country. I'm sure some of you are aware that peace negotiations have not started yet, although ceasefire negotiations have been going on for the last several years. Only if we take the necessary political steps will we be able to go forward to take the necessary economic steps that will make our country once again one of the leading nations of Southeast Asia. I'm confident that with your help, that is to say, you Burmese who are living abroad, as well as you friends of Burma, interested in helping us to grow and develop in the right way, that we will be able to achieve our goals. The NLD will be producing its economic policy paper before long. So those of you who are interested in knowing what they can expect under an NLD government will, I'm sure, be very, very interested in studying this. Concerns have been expressed that an NLD government would not honor contracts signed with this present government. I would like to make it quite clear that the NLD believes in the rule of law, and all contracts that have been signed in the right way and in accordance with best practices will be honored. We do not want people to feel insecure in Burma. Our people first must feel secure, and all those who are participating in the development process of our country, whether they be businessmen, whether they be simply friends of Burma, I want all of them also to feel secure. So through you, I would like to send this message. We are now at an important point in the history of our country. The next few months will decide whether we're going forward to democratic governance and genuine economic development, or whether we're going to stagnate in a facade of democratic rule, which is in fact not much better than an authoritarian administration. I would like to ask all of you to help us to achieve our goal, which I believe is the goal that you would also wish to achieve. Thank you.